If you're being paid all these dollars and the endorsement deals, the least you can do is actually, perform. Even if it means you fail, the fact that you tried, some people would argue that that in itself is the brave thing to do. All right, but moving on, man. Moving on to the cocoa of what I was trying to discuss today. It's this girl, man, Simone Biles. I think it was like one of the biggest stories today. She withdrew from gymnastics finals. And it was said she did it to protect the team and herself. One of the things that was referenced was mental health. So let's read through this AP article here really quickly. She was scheduled to do an Amanar vault that requires a round of back handspring onto the table, followed by 2.5 twists. Biles instead did just 1.5 twists with a big leap forward after landing. She sat down and talked to U.S. team doctor Marcia Fausting, then headed to the back while the rest of the Americans moved on to uneven bars without her. When Biles returned several minutes later, she hugged her teammates and took off her bar grips. And just like that, her night was over. This was a pretty big deal because Simone Biles is, I think, she's probably the biggest Olympian since Michael Phelps. The biggest American Olympian since Michael Phelps. I think that's safe to say. Shit, I have this in my ear. I forgot to take it out. So everyone was looking forward to this gymnastics, and gymnastics is huge in the United States. I mean, that's a given. Everyone was really looking forward to this. They qualified. She was in the qualifiers. She pretty much she pretty much put them in the qualifiers with her performance. She's known to be probably the greatest gymnast of all time, at least female gymnast of all time, possibly greatest gymnast of all time, period. Because I think the women gymnasts are considered better, I think. Not sure. But this was a big deal because here she was. It sounded like, and it didn't sound like it was an injury. It sounded like she maybe had something to do with some confidence of some kind, and maybe she felt the best way to help her team was to step out of it. Maybe she was in her head. She did mention mental health, and this is her doing her presser. Oh, please, I hope this thing works. Internet's the pack up. Crap. Don't worry, I'll insert it.
Thankfully, and that's why I took a step back, because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured. So I thought it was best if these girls took over and did the rest of the job, which they absolutely did. They're Olympic silver medalists now, and they should be really proud of themselves for how well they did last minute having to go in. And it's been really stressful, this Olympic Games. I think just as a whole, not having an audience, there are a lot of different variables going into it. It's been a long week. It's been a long Olympic process. It's been a long year. Put mental health first, because if you don't, then you're not going to enjoy your sport and you're not going to succeed as much as you want to. So it's okay sometimes to even sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself, because it shows how strong of a competitor and person that you really are.
If she was having issues with her mental health, she wanted to protect herself. And the problem with what happened was that when she pulled out right when they were in the thick of things. I think there was a tournament where it's three. Usually it's like three of them that have to represent. It was the team tournament. You know, they always have the individual, then they have the team. But she pulled out, and some other girl, some 20-year-old girl, had to come in at the last minute. So some people are criticizing her, and they're saying that, she kind of sabotaged the team. I don't necessarily see it that way. I think I think mental health is definitely something that people should take seriously. If she really felt like the best way to help the team was to pull out of it, then so be it. Sometimes it just bees like that, man. The problem, however, is that, see, this isn't the first time this is happening. Something recently happened too to another sports star, superstar. Her, you guys know her, Naomi Osaka. She's American, but she's also Japanese. She was representing Japan, and there's been a big deal made about her in the last couple years. She won one Grand Slam. She's a tennis player. For those that don't know, if you don't know that who Naomi Osaka is, please just Google. She's a tennis player. She's won one Grand Slam. She had an opportunity to win a second Grand Slam, and she pulled out of it. And guess what she cited? Yeah, you guessed it. Mental health. So it seems like there's like a trend developing here. So that happened. Now, she was also an Olympian. In fact, she helped light the torch in Japan. She was like considered like their biggest athlete. And it was kind of a big deal because she's half Japanese, she's half black. And I think it's probably the first time you've had someone of color be such a big representative of a country like Japan. And it was their opportunity to tout how, their diversity. But she fell out in the third round of the tennis tournament in the Olympics. She fell out. This is supposed to be one of the biggest stars of the entire Olympics. So that's two big stars. And that's not even counting Sha'Carri. Because I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure Sha'Carri would have won that thing. I mean, the way she was looking on that track. But that's another story for another day. So you're starting to see a trend here. And she's not the only one. There have been other athletes too. I think it's, what's his name? Basketball player. Kyrie Irving too. He took off sometime last season, citing mental health. And this isn't really common. This isn't something that used to happen a lot back then. There is this one article that I wanted to pull up. You already know now. They're going to come up with their think pieces. This one is Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka signal new era of prioritizing mental health. Damn, they're quick with these think pieces, man. This is Michael Rosenberg 7 hours ago. That's what it's talking about. This is a new era in sports, and it might take some time for the fog to clear. Simone Biles, the best gymnast in the world by far, who looked like she could dominate the competition without thinking about it, pulled out of the Tokyo Olympics team final Tuesday. Naomi Osaka, probably the best tennis player in the world when she's on her game, gave up her chance to win 2 Grand Slam events this year to focus on her mental health. These two are the two most obvious examples, but far from the only ones. Kyrie Irving took a leave. That's what I was talking about last year. This year, for reasons he chose not to share. It all seems unprecedented, like athletes can just walk away at any moment and have people applaud them for it. For people at a certain age who are used to certain ethos, it is jarring. But we have seen athletes step away from the competition for non-physical reasons before. Jim Brown did it. Michael Jordan did it. Jim Brown was a winner, though, when he did it. Michael Jordan had won 3 championships when he did it. But I think there's a case to be made that, look, some people really just need to take a mental break. And if it means saving them their mental headspace, then so be it. I think that should be respected. I think where I draw the line, though, is when athletes start getting when people start praising them for moves like this. There's nothing wrong with commending someone being aware enough to know when to take mental breaks. That's one thing, but sometimes you see people actually start to praise these people like they did something brave, and I get it. It takes some level of courage, but I don't really get what's so brave about stepping away from the game. And this is coming from the Koregeous Pod too. If there's something that I should be able to identify, it is courage. And some people may argue that it takes a lot more courage, or it takes a lot more mental fortitude to be able to overcome whatever mental lapses or breaks that's going on in your head and still perform. Now, in the case of Simone Biles, I think that's tricky, because if she felt like the best way she could help her team was to step away, then I think that's a good thing. But there's a certain generation of people that feel like sometimes you just have to power through it, and that's the only way. If you're being paid all these dollars and the endorsement deals, the least you can do is actually perform, even if it means you fail. The fact that you tried, some people would argue that that in itself is the brave thing to do. In other words, being willing to put yourself out there, regardless of not being on your best form. But like I said, with Simone Biles, because it was a team effort, I can kind of take exception to that, because maybe she did make the right decision. And these things can be debated one way or the other. Either way, I don't fault her for what she did. I don't fault her for taking a step down. What I don't like is how sports in general has become this divisive thing. So as much as I extend all the empathy to some of these players that are playing under so much pressure, I think it's also important as fans to be able to just have some perspective and not it doesn't always have to be so do or die. It really doesn't. Like, sports doesn't have to be so divisive. Sports is what's supposed to actually bring us together. Is what gives us camaraderie. It's how people spark up conversations. Sports do have like a real good in society. So before I go, please don't forget, please like, subscribe, hit the bell so that every time I post a video, you're gonna get notified. Thank you.